Imagine a world where every action, every decision, and even every instinct is influenced not by conscious choice, but by the needs of tiny, invisible entities within user genes. In The Selfish Gene, Richard Dawkins argues that all living organisms, including humans, are essentially survival machines designed to serve these genes. Genes, according to Dawkins, are self-replicating units that have existed for millions of years, adapting and evolving across generations, crafting organisms including us to suit one purpose: survival. So what does this mean for us and the way we see life? Dawkins' argument is revolutionary. He suggests that our genes are selfish, not in the way that we think of selfishness, as something deliberate or with intention, but because they drive behaviors in organisms that increase their own chances of survival. This perspective challenges conventional beliefs about human behavior, morality, and even our sense of self. In today's video, we'll dive into this fascinating concept, exploring why Dawkins believes genes are the real players in the evolutionary game, what that means for us as humans, and how it reshapes ideas about cooperation, altruism, and culture. To start, let's unpack the core idea of the selfish gene. When Dawkins describes genes as selfish, he doesn't mean they have motives or intentions. Instead, genes are structured in a way that inherently promotes their replication and survival. This drive results in behaviors that might appear selfish at first glance, but are actually strategies for survival. Take, for example, the behavior of certain birds when they find food. They call out to alert others. While this may seem altruistic, Dawkins suggests that it's a survival tactic, one that builds a network of support, ultimately increasing the bird's own chances of survival by encouraging cooperation with its peers. Dawkins challenges the way we traditionally think about behavior by explaining that many acts we consider selfless or generous are actually calculated strategies for genetic survival. But how does this work? Dawkins tackles the concept of altruism by explaining two key ideas: kin selection and reciprocal altruism. These concepts allow us to understand why organisms might act in ways that benefit others even if it seems to come at a cost. First, kin selection. Kin selection explains why animals often help their relatives. By helping those who share their genes, an organism indirectly ensures the continuation of its own genetic material, even if it doesn't directly benefit from it. For instance, worker bees are willing to sacrifice themselves to protect their hive, particularly the queen bee, who carries the genetic material they share. By protecting her, they are, in a way, protecting a part of themselves. This isn't just cooperation, it's a strategy for gene survival. The second concept Dawkins introduces is reciprocal altruism. Reciprocal altruism refers to a form of cooperation that happens not between family members, but between unrelated individuals. Think of it as a "you scratch my back, I'll scratch your" system. An organism helps another with the expectation that the favor will be returned at some point, enhancing survival odds for both in the long run. This concept aligns with game theory, specifically the prisoner's dilemma, which explores how cooperation can be a stable strategy in competitive environments. Reciprocal altruism is visible in behaviors across the animal kingdom, from grooming in primates to food sharing among vampire bats. Dawkins suggests that these seemingly selfless acts are not moral choices, but calculated strategies, evolved to increase an organism's genetic success. Now, what about humans? Dawkins takes this gene-centered view and applies it to human behavior, pushing us to think about our choices, free will, and moral codes in a new light. If we're driven by our genes to act in ways that ultimately serve genetic survival, where does that leave us with regard to free will and moral responsibility? Dawkins is careful here. He emphasizes that genetic determinism does not mean that we're completely controlled by our genes. In fact, humans are unique because we have developed something beyond genetic culture. Dawkins believes that while our genes may push us towards selfish behaviors, culture gives us the capacity to challenge and even override these genetic tendencies. This brings us to one of the most innovative ideas. Dawkins introduces in The Selfish Gene the concept of memes. Just as genes are units of biological evolution, memes are units of cultural evolution. A meme, according to Dawkins, is an idea, behavior, or style that spreads from one person to another within a culture. Unlike genes, memes can evolve and adapt rapidly, passing from mind to mind and changing form along the way. Memes enable humans to share knowledge, form societies, and build complex cultural structures. And they follow their own form of evolution through imitation. This process of cultural evolution means that humans can, and often do, act in ways that oppose their genetic programming. For example, through cultural values, we may choose to be generous or altruistic, even when it doesn't directly benefit our genes. Through memes, humans can influence behaviors in ways that genes alone cannot dictate. This opens up a fascinating possibility. Are we the only species capable of overcoming the selfish imperatives of our genes through culture? Dawkins suggests that our capacity for memes gives us a unique power to challenge our genetic programming and even shape the course of human evolution through culture, values, and knowledge transmission. But with these insights come some profound questions about ethics, morality, and what it means to be human. If genes and memes drive our behaviors, where does that leave ideas like compassion, selflessness, or moral responsibility? Dawkins doesn't see his theory as a limitation, but rather as an opportunity for greater understanding. He argues that by acknowledging the influence of genes, we're not bound by it. Instead, we can gain the freedom to make conscious choices, to decide which genetic impulses we follow and which we resist. In his view, understanding our biological instincts empowers us to act with intention, potentially defying our genetic predispositions for a higher purpose or a better society. So, let's recap the journey Dawkins takes us on. In The Selfish Gene, he presents a revolutionary view of life, where genes, not individuals or species, are the true players in evolution. This gene-centered approach explains both altruism and competition, cooperation and conflict, by focusing on the survival of genetic material. Through kin selection and reciprocal altruism, Dawkins illustrates that even seemingly altruistic behaviors have a genetic foundation, serving as strategies to ensure gene survival. But with the evolution of culture and memes, humans possess a unique capability to transcend these genetic influences, allowing for more complexity, agency, and choice than any other species. In the end, Dawkins leaves us with a compelling message: understanding the selfish nature of our genes doesn't confine us, it empowers us. By recognizing the powerful influence of genes on our actions, we gain insight into the very foundations of behavior, allowing us to consciously decide what kind of society we want to build. The selfish gene doesn't suggest that we're slaves to our biology. Instead, it invites us to be mindful of it, to learn from it, and, where possible, to rise above it. Thank you for exploring these fascinating ideas with me today. Whether you're interested in biology, philosophy, or just curious about what makes us who we are, The Selfish Gene is a thought-provoking book that challenges us to rethink our place in the natural world. If you enjoyed this journey into the ideas of Richard Dawkins, stay tuned for more explorations of groundbreaking theories and discoveries that change the way we understand life and ourselves.